Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Sophie. Welcome
Hello.
Thank you for accepting this invitation. We had a
Mm-hmm.
very, very nice conversation, I think 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And you really gave me an opportunity by asking great questions to talk a little bit about my world and how I approach it. And this is the second part of that. This is me getting to know you better. And I'm excited to hear a little bit more about your story, to hear a little bit more about your work. I must say to everyone, my first contact with it is very, I love it. And I'm very hopeful and very grateful of what I think that you're doing right now. So I want to figure out today if I'm right about all that. But nice to have you here, Sophie.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, your first question was, you put me on the spot and let me introduce myself. So I'm going to do the same with you. How would you introduce yourself?
So my name is Sophie Josephina. I'm a sex, life, and relating coach. And my work is a bit two-sided. On the one hand, I combine things like Tantra with neuroscience and trauma work, because I think sexuality is a very beautiful platform to heal and to transform. And on the other side, I work a lot with the masculine and the feminine within ourselves, between people. And what's been really alive for me recently is honoring both sides. So why we're having these conversations is, there's a lot in modern discourse where we demonize men, or we devalue their experience. We say, oh, they're just not emotionally available, or their egos are so delicate, or there's all these ways that we're kind of belittling men in our language. And then we wonder where all the good men are. Right? So we're not, I think in the way we are treating men, we're not calling them in their power. So a part of what I do is just to honor them in their experience, and the same for women. So there's a lot of women that are, this is part of the work that I do with women, they're very much stuck in the strong, independent woman, in being really tough and, taking care of themselves, and they're not getting the relationships that they're wanting. They're burning out, they're exhausted. And it's really because they have lost touch with their femininity. And they've lost touch with switching between energies. And they will often attract partners that they're just butting heads with. So that's it. Yeah.
I really enjoy the honoring, as you know, and we'll talk about that especially because instead of using judgments to navigate our relationships, to use honor is the only way out, and I want to talk about that in a bit. But I heard neuroscience, and if I'm right, I want to hear a little bit about your story. You said to me that you were a data analyst before, or
I was in data science before this. Yeah.
What were you doing?
So I was raised by a tantrica and a quantum physicist. So my entire upbringing was this very strange mix of my weekends being in this deep bliss, and during the week, like learning mathematics and everything. So I think I spent my the first decade of my adult life, I really went into academia, into the corporate world, a very male dominated world. And I spent, I think, maybe 6-7 years in data science, which was, I loved doing it. I really loved doing it. It gave me a lot. I was weirdly intuitive about where the issues were. I really enjoyed thinking about something that nobody had ever thought about. But it was in a very male-dominated environment, and I eventually burnt out very, very, very badly because that did not work. I could not sustain that. And I was living the life that I should. I was exactly living the life that I should. And I wasn't living the life that I actually wanted to do.
Wow.
And so the past 2 years I've been switching to this because this is what I'm actually passionate about. And I'm using my analytical and my scientific thinking very much in this realm as well. So I specialized in really the neuroscience behind healing and transformation. So yeah, that's briefly.
Wow. Well, the parallels with my past, we'll discuss it on a private mic. Yes, I was an academic, and I was trained as a sociologist, got a PhD in in philosophy, and I actually wrote about mathematics, in my PhD.
Really?
So, and I have the
Yeah.
same kind of, I was working with my heroes, but then it didn't feel, for me, it didn't feel adventurous. I didn't feel alive and seduced. And when I got a call for adventure, I left it all behind, and well, like I said, we'll deal with it on a private thing, because that's a way in the past. So you've been, I want to take note, I'm speaking it now because, so I remember it for later in the call, really interested in the neuroscience also of what happens when we honor someone. We've been talking with Michael about this, like what happens when we feel honored. So I'm keeping track of that for later.
Okay.
But what I would like to know is, it's like, you went to this line of work, you said 2 years ago?
So Tantra itself, that was something I was raised with. And I didn't know it was Tantra until many, many years later. I thought, wait a second. I'd always had an affinity with spirituality, but especially when I was in my early 20s, spirituality to me was a lot of detachment. So it's like the mindfulness, like seeing your thoughts as clouds in the sky, as something about that does not add up for me. I really thought, like on a more metaphysical level, I thought, why am I born into a body if I then am not allowed to feel it? And I noticed that the way out of my burnout, the way out of a lot of problems, was for me to actually feel things. And I could not seem to marry that with what I was learning in the conscious community, because it was all about like be in a state of love, be in a state of enlightenment, forgive, all these things. And it felt so wrong to me, what was being said there. And I could not put my finger on exactly what it was. And then in my burnout, I rediscovered Tantra. And the second I was there, I was like, oh yeah, because Tantra is actually going through the body to some higher level, but going, like feeling the body, the experience of the body. There is no good or bad emotion. Like it's all life energy, and honoring actually whatever it is. So the emotion of anger in Tantra, you see that as a divinity, and not to make it too woo-woo, but you can just see it as like, okay, my anger has something to tell me, just like my jealousy, just like my judgment, and to really embrace everything that we are feeling. And so Tantra was a way for me to go into the body and to actually open up the energy that was there. So in my burnout, for instance, I felt depressed. I felt very frustrated with my life. And instead of thinking I shouldn't be depressed or frustrated, I went into it. And that's when I got my energy back, because I was living again. Even when it was ugly, I was living. So that's where I really rediscovered Tantra. And then another person who was really influential for me is Jeff Brown. He speaks about grounded spirituality. And that's really about what the things we are, like the whole idea of just be grateful, just be positive, why that doesn't work, because it's actually bypassing the reality of your experience. So I'm very happy to have found the direction that I found now, because I think spirituality or self-development is through the body. It's honoring what is. Honoring what is. Yeah.
This is for us also always the starting point. We talk about desire, anger, anything that's there. When you say I had a burnout, I had frustration, and I had to go through it, like feeling it. What was there for you at that point? Because
so much disappointment. So much disappointment, because I felt like I had been living the life that I should, and with kind of promise that would make me happy, and I realized it wasn't. And so I felt like an existential disappointment that I was fed that if I lived a certain life, I'm going to be okay. And I didn't feel like I was at all. And so everything that I had done for the first 25 years of my life felt like I was going in completely the wrong direction. It was like I was raised in a religion and somebody told me God didn't exist. That's pretty much how that experience felt.
You got to talk to my business partner, Michael, who was raised Mormon, and then had his conversation with God and basically said, I'm going a different way. Wow. But when you say, I'm interested in that experience, when you say disappointment, was that for you like a real bodily sensation, a feeling?
Yeah, disappointment is actually disgust, and we don't express disgust. So the moment I go through breath work or any kind of emotional release, for me, the first emotion, the thing that comes up physically is disgust. So I have a lot of like coughing, right? Yeah, just I think at the very primal level, it's a level of disgust at being told what I was told and it not being true. And
Wow.
so I really had to deal with the primal level of that emotion of just being so angry and disgusted at where my life had gone. And when I went through, like, that opened up so much energy, because actually there was so much energy in that. And I thought I was burnt out and I could only sleep 16 hours a day. When I started connecting to my disappointment, oh, I literally came back alive.
Yes. This is where all the glow from these days comes from.
Yeah.
From the
Well, it
disgust.
comes from feeling what is actually there. So if I'm
Yes.
frustrated, if I'm angry, if I'm judgy, to not that I necessarily have to act it out to somebody, but I do honor the feeling in myself.
Yes.
So like yesterday I was frustrated most of the day. I honored it very much. I really went into the like kind of grunting, like kind of like that, to physically let it out. And then, you know, energy starts flowing again.
Yes.
That's really the best way to describe it. It literally feels like I free up something.
How are you feeling right now?
Today I'm having a really good day. It's a beautiful sunny day in Amsterdam. I spent all the day on the terraces. So
Oh my God, we had a sunrise here. It was unreal. I'll send you the video. It's just,
yes,
you
please.
think about it, you think, oh, sunrise, you know, but really, oh, it was amazing.
It's so beautiful, I'm sure. Yeah, but also in that, right, to feel to really enjoy the fullness of enjoying something.
Yes.
That will free it up.
It was amazing.
Yes.
The majesty of nature. You went from that point of, like, say, disgust and disappointment, and you went all the way to what you're doing now, to your work, which seems a beautiful creation. How did those 2 years or so, how did you go from being down in that feeling and disgust to where you're at now, where you're creating something that's powerful?
So there were two parts. One is that my body gave me no choice. Like, my body refused to go back to the office. It became so bad that I developed epilepsy, and that I had an epileptic attack every 48 hours because my body just did not want to go back. So I had now it's a blessing, but while it was happening, it was absolutely not. But I had the blessing that I was given no choice. My subconscious just refused to go back to this life that I didn't want to live anymore. In that I felt such a hard no to certain things, I also felt a very clear yes. So I went into a 1.5 year long training to become a sex coach. I did a lot of workshops, education, book readings, practicing, festivals, retreats, whatever. Every time I felt a fuck yes, I did not question it and I just followed it. And looking back at it, all those moments were exactly what I needed. So for people who are going through something similar, feel where you think, yeah, I want to do that. Even if it makes no sense. If you think, I don't know, you want to, I don't know, do a massage course, you think, I don't want to massage people, still do it. It'll make sense at some point. Yes. So I started trusting, I think, in the subtle language that my system was telling me, that certain things were no and certain things were yes, and I wasn't questioning it anymore. I was trusting that it was leading me somewhere. And now, and at a certain point, I kept trusting it, and at a certain point, the direction became so undeniably clear that I was like, okay, this is what I need to do with my life. It's obvious.
It's obvious.
So it felt easy, which is maybe strange to hear, but it felt like such an obvious, easy transition that the only thing I had to do was just listen.
Because you were already in tune, you know, and you had a very clear no first, and then you had a couple of very clear yeses. I'm interested in what those first fuck yes were. Like, what was it that you say, oh, this?
I had so one of my friends was giving a retreat in Thailand, and I thought, yeah, I want to go to that retreat. And I didn't know why. I'd done a retreat with her before, you know, there wasn't anything novel about it. And I just thought, okay, yeah, fuck, I need to go there. And that retreat was the start of my Tantric Reawakening.
Wow.
I didn't know it was on the Tantra island in the world on Comyn. I had no idea what was there. I literally felt like I was coming home, and I wasn't going there with that intention. I just thought, yeah, fuck it, I'll follow them. I don't know why, but I need to.
Mm.
That was for me the start of coming home, of thinking, of just feeling like, hey, there's other people like me. There are people who think like this. I can learn from people. There are mentors here. Yeah, that was the starting point, and that I think is now 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, great, fantastic. It's a good journey. And I think it's
Yes.
important to know, that for people listening, that there's signals of the body all the time, of what is a no and what is a yes. And that a big part of
Yeah,
the
and
work is listening.
I want to just say an extra point about that. Like, I was in probably the most secure, promising career that
Mm-hmm.
you could have, right? Like, data science is one of the most wanted jobs in the world. I exited it at the top
Mm-hmm.
of my career. I said, nope, not anymore. And everything sensible said, what are you doing? And it was something I had to do. And
Yes.
I'm so glad I have, because I feel more security in my life now than I did.
Yeah. I was really struck by the experience also, which I also had, I didn't defend my PhD like 2 weeks before because I got the call for
Oh,
adventure. And I'm like,
oof.
and people say, oh, you're very courageous. But what you said, I had the same thing. It didn't feel courageous to me at all. It was just, of course, there's
Yeah.
no like,
Yeah.
of course I'm
There's no
going to
other
do
way.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fantastic to hear that. I was really interested in the no's and the yeses. So it's great. So
Yeah.
yeah, at this point
Yeah.
now, you're a what's a sex coach do?
um I think the sex coach part is honestly the entrance. So
Mm,
the entrance to personal development. I think what we experience in sex is often how we live our lives. So if, for
mm,
instance, you have difficulty receiving in sex, you very
mm,
likely have difficulty receiving the abundance in your life.
mm,
If you have difficulty giving or taking the lead or whatever, or orgasming, it will likely be the same case in your life. So sex is a beautiful entrance, because in sex we can't lie and we
mm-hmm,
can't pretend we're something else. It will catch up on us. Like, it's this place where our subconscious speaks to us. And I don't know, as a man, you can try really hard to have your member do what it wants to do or what you want it to do, but if it doesn't want to, it's not going to. So it's a
right.
place where you have to deal with the deeper stuff going on. So where people often find me is, I'm not having the sex that I want, or I feel really closed off, or I dissociate, or
Mm,
I can't orgasm. Honestly, in the actual work, we very rarely speak about the sex itself, because it's an entrance point,
I like it.
and it's a place where we can practice certain things.
Mm,
And for me, what my fascination is with the realms of sex is that it's a deeply healing, shamanistic place to go through so much, yeah, like opening and honestly recovering of trauma. Like, sex is such a gorgeous place to really come to the depths of ourselves.
wow. Very
Yeah.
interesting. And
Yeah.
but you say it's an entrance point, like to a bigger thing of relating to one another.
Yeah.
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 I'm I'm really interested in your like what I really admire is that what I've seen right now, talking to you
Yeah.
and then snooping a bit around on the website, that you really look to bring men and women together, and it's something I
Yep.
stand for as well, in the sense of like, sometimes we think we're going to argue and blame and judge our way to a solution, and that will never solve itself, and not to choose one side, but really try to bring men and women together. How does that look to you when you think of like bringing men and women together? How does it look, and what's the way of bringing them together?
So what I see happening a lot is that there is, for instance, what we spoke about in the beginning, that men are kind of devalued. They're made wrong from the get-go, right? They are less emotionally available. They can't do this or they can't do that. They're all cheaters, right? There's all these ways of completely kind of making men wrong, when you're actually not asking, why are these things happening, right?
Mm,
What's actually going on there. The same for women. A lot of women are made wrong for their feelings. They're hysterical, they're crazy, they're needy, they're, high maintenance, when the question isn't actually asked, like, what's actually her experience. And I notice when when we really start honoring the masculine and the feminine, and we acknowledge that we have both energies inside of us, we can also honor it in the other. So when I start to work with my inner dude, as I call him, and I start really appreciating what my inner dude does for me, right? My inner dude makes my to-do list. He makes sure I get taken care of. He makes sure there's there's structures in place, there's boundaries. The moment I started respecting my inner dude, I also started seeing his role outside of me in my partner or in my friends, that sometimes I need the masculinity in my life. Of course, I need that, because I can't, like, even the most masculine man can't always be masculine. He needs to be fed from the feminine and the other way around. Like, it's constantly like a making love energy exchange. So in understanding what those energies are and what they specifically need, makes it that, honestly, I see men very differently now. Like, for me, the most pivotal moment or the most pivotal insight is that women are really afraid that something physical will happen with them. Men are really afraid to be made fun of. When you start respecting that, you know, a man needs to be honored in his decisions and his vision, and a woman needs to be honored in her feelings and what she's experiencing. If you start working from those principles, you'll have a very different conversation. And again, everybody has both energies. So if I'm talking about my work, I often need to be honored in my masculinity there. So if somebody wants to engage with me in what my work is, I need them to honor me in what my vision is.
Yes.
And if they belittle me there already, I'm out. Right. So starting to respect the needs, the core desires of both those energies makes, I think, relating completely differently.
Yes. I hear respect and I hear honoring. What does that, how does that look like, to honor, say, a man for his vision, or to honor a woman for the way she feels? How does that look?
To not make each other wrong, to not judge. You know, even if I don't, like, let's say I don't understand what a man in front of me, why he's doing the life he's doing, even if I don't get it, even if I disagree with it, to honor him that he made those decisions and this is what he stands for.
Is it something for you, like, do you have practices to do this? Like, is it something you say? Is it an intention? Is it an awareness, or is it all of that?
The whole street just got filled up with men here on motorbikes.
Your what?
My whole street just filled up with like 100 men on motorbikes. Can you
Honor
still hear
them,
me
Sophie.
properly?
Honor them.
Literally 100. Okay.
They got a vision going down the street.
Yeah, this is really funny.
I hear you perfectly.
Yeah, so there is, so for instance, from women, we think that a strong woman is a woman that tells her man what he's doing wrong, what she needs, and how he's going to meet that. Something about that energy a man will not receive. And instead of making him wrong for not receiving it, see if you can give that message while honoring his decisions. So it's kind of like, can I really see you and then still speak about what my desires are? So instead of saying you are wrong for not taking out the trash, right? Nobody wants to step up, when actually men love to be challenged, right?
Yes.
Men love to be challenged. So instead of saying you're wrong for not taking the trash out and I have to do everything alone, is saying, oh, baby, you know, I know I'm really stressed out and I had to take out the trash again. And you promised this and you are not holding your word. What's going on here? Like, what do you think we need to do here? This isn't working for me, right? That's a whole completely different conversation that actually asks him to step up of like, okay, we need a new solution.
Right. Interesting.
So that's a different thing. The other practice is to just listen to each other. We're very bad in relationships to actually listen. So the simplest, it's a tantric exercise, is just set a timer, 3 minutes. Your partner talks, you only listen, no responding. And then you switch to actually listen to each other.
Seek to understand before seeking to be understood.
Yeah, because otherwise we're constantly in the battle of, I want to defend something, or I want to clarify that. So you're constantly actually in your own process instead of listening to the other.
Yeah. Yeah, to us, to me, we were talking yesterday on the Facebook Live about like how you know, why do judgments come so natural as a way to navigate our relationships, and why is it so hard to use honor instead to do that? Because when you do it with honor, it's a lot more powerful. And I notice it in me. I have a lot of honor, has always been important, and now I have a lot of training in it too. And I still have I still catch myself judging, you know, and using that as my default mechanism. And there's, we talked about it with Michael, and it's because there's very little culture of honor. You know, we have a culture of individuals, and I go first, and we celebrate the one that goes first. And when you look at an Asian culture who really takes into account the other a lot more, there's a lot more space for honor there. But I'm just thinking, I want to say this publicly also, because I don't want to forget it, but I think you would really appreciate the work of my business partner, Michael Sky, who did honor work for 2 decades. And like honor has always been important to me, but he really found like human technologies, tools to apply, you know, like frames you set with your partner, who you are for me, who I am for you. Also the honor window that takes your judgments, sees the desire that's underneath, and comes with honor in the end, you know. So it's very, very, very powerful, incredible work, you know. And
beautiful.
Because like you know, my honor has been so important, and I've been like trying to grapple with it, and I couldn't, like I stumbled upon a couple of things, but to really like see what's happening and have tools at hand to do that, you know, to honor your man, to honor your woman, you know. And it's miracles are happening and are possible, you know, when you bring honor to the other. So
I think a good question, for instance, is where are you making them wrong? You know, that uncovers the judgment. So what am I making the other person wrong for?
Yes.
And to also ask, like, what do you think is underneath it for them? You know, what do you, if you try to look deeper, so try to go from the angry part or whatever and try to see what's deeper, to already have some compassion of what do you think is actually happening with your beloved right now? And
That's
that already
fantastic.
brings some compassion. Yeah. It's beautiful work what you're doing.
No, it's beautiful work what you're doing. But it is, I feel very fortunate, you know, to be part of this and exploring this, because you see relationships being restored, and you see them thrive, you know, continue to thrive. It's a fantastic thing. What is to you, okay, all right, here we go, maybe to the neuroscientific part. What is to you honor?
Honor is really acknowledging the other person for their experience and respecting, understanding it.
Okay.
So it's really that I see what you're doing. I acknowledge what you're doing. I respect your choices. I respect what you stand for. I think it's really.
So when you think of honor, you think of a practice first and foremost?
No, it's an attitude. I think it's an attitude. It's an attitude of giving the person the benefit of the doubt, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Of saying, I'm going to assume that you are trying to do your best, even when it's ugly. You are trying to do your best. Something that you're trying to create something for yourself or for other people, and it's coming from goodness. Like, especially when you go into deeper personal development work, every piece of you, even the ugly parts, are trying to create something good. So, for instance, I have a very strong inner critic, like many people do. My inner critic is actually trying to keep me safe. So I can completely demonize the fact that I have an inner critic that is not nice to me, or I can see the layer underneath it and see that my inner critic is trying to keep me safe. And so to give that benefit of the doubt to your own parts of yourself, but also to your partner, that even when they do something that isn't completely healthy or whatever, or constructive, that the energy underneath it is maybe something really beautiful.
Nice.
And to acknowledge that part.
Yeah. So it's an attitude, a practice. Do you feel sometimes honored or honored?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I felt really honored when there was actually an aspect of devotion to it.
You feel honored by if the guy is devoted?
I've experienced like really being
Mm-hmm.
honored, and I'm thinking about times in my life where I've experienced that, and when that was the case, there was almost an element of devotion to it,
Mm-hmm.
of for instance, if in during sex you really take the time, like you just set the timer for 30 minutes and you just give the other,
Mm-hmm.
and you completely take care of them, you're only in a giving state, that can for me already feel like being completely honored.
Yes.
It's like, what can I do for you right now? I'm here.
Mm.
What can I do for you right now? Like that feels like being honored.
Mm.
Yeah.
What
That's a good
about when
question.
you honor the other? What's going on for you then?
Yeah, that's funny. Like that also feels like a bit of devotion,
Uh-huh.
of really seeing almost a divinity. Yeah, I mean, divinity sounds very woo-woo, but the being in reverence of who they are.
Yes.
Just thinking, wow, wow, I see you. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
What is it
because
for you?
well, to me honor is a feeling.
Hmm.
It's really
Hmm.
like I can feel it when I honor Zan, after
Right.
it's like, oh yes,
Right.
this feels right. This is coming home. This feels warm. This is,
Hmm.
and so in that sense, my honor is like you speak about the body being the guide of the hell yes or the no. For me, the honor is the hell yes. It's like, yes, this
Hmm.
is right. Yeah, I have some other
Oh,
feelings
yeah.
like aliveness and uh, desire, for example, which is also a hell yes. But honor is a hell yes. Is
Oh,
when I feel like I stand for my people, when I feel like I got past my own judgments, when I see the
oof.
other, it is really a
Yeah.
feeling of homecoming and like, and so powerful. I feel incredibly powerful when when honoring someone
Yeah.
or when being honored, when I feel that the
Mm.
other sees me and honors me for the mountain I've been facing, the stand I've been making, and they see me for, I say, wow, that
Mm.
feels so powerful. That's in that
Mm.
sense also, when we spoke last time, that I feel like a woman, when she honors her man, that the guy is he'll destroy the world, he feels so powerful in that, so yeah, it's and I
Oh.
was very interested
Oh.
in your ideas around that. And maybe, I don't know if you've thought about this, but like, I would love to know what's going on a neuroscientific, a neuro
Mm.
level, what's going on there that feels so good, so
I think as long as we are judging the other, it's actually a primal response, right? So the primal brain is our
mm,
fight, flight, freeze, and
yes,
fawn. As long as we're in a judgment state, we're actually fighting. So we're saying, you're wrong, don't get close, right? It's
uh-huh.
all about defending something. I
Defense
think
mechanism, yes.
the moment you're in honoring, it sounds like you don't need to fight, flight, freeze up, right? You can be completely there. You can acknowledge that you're maybe afraid or that you were hurt, and I still see you.
Mm,
So I think that gets out of the very primal state of having to defend something. And I think that's also what you're physically describing. It's almost like a full body experience, right?
yes,
Wow. So that's a sign that it's not just this very primal part of, because when you're in the primal brain, so when you're in the defense, you can't think clearly.
right,
You cannot. You will try, every piece of information will be put into serving the primal thing you're trying to do. So if you're trying to
right,
fight or judge, every new piece of information will go in that, right? So if your partner says sorry, you say, you don't mean that, sorry, right? You're only in that. And to get out of that, what you described in the honoring is beautiful. It's really, it's the way to get out of that is, I think, to connect to the actual vulnerability that's underneath it in
mm-hmm.
the other and in yourself. So if I'm defending myself and my partner says, hey Sophie, are, I think I really hurt you just there. Oh yeah. Right. Then the primal brain starts getting quiet because it doesn't have to defend it anymore.
Right, but
Yeah.
like you described the primal in that part, and then
Yeah.
what to do to get out of it. But I'm very interested in like, what realm are we entering when I'm like starting to feel that? What is that? Is that like, I'm not asking you to give an answer to this now, but I'm like, that's why you're a neuroscientist and you data. I would love to know what's going on there. What part of my brain is like stopping, what brain is opening, is like what's going on with the heart, because I really feel an opening of the heart. Like it's really like, whoa,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like, and I would love to know what's going on a neuro level there, because it feels so warm and so empowering and so right, you know, that yeah, it's I'm sure it's like physically helping me, you know, be healthy, be strong, and all of that.
I can imagine that it has a lot to do with the mirror neurons, so that you know what the mirror neurons are, that you, when you see another person crying, there's a part of your brain that will do the same thing. So if you see a person running on TV, there's a part of your brain that will start running.
Right.
And that thinks you are running. So
Yes.
the mirror neurons, this is why we're such social creatures. This is why, for instance, in the whole corona pandemic, that's really what the part that hurts. So normally when we're in front of another human being, we co-regulate. So if I'm really upset and you're calm, what will happen is that you will get a bit more upset and I will get calmer.
Nice.
And that's because of the mirror neurons, because I'm picking up something from you and you're picking up something from me, and we start to co-regulate until we get to that level. I can imagine that it has something to do with that. But to me, it also sounds, it really sounds like you don't have to be afraid. It sounds like you're coming out of, you're coming into a full-bodied surrender. Yeah.
And it's so powerful, like what the co-creation, what I've realized, the co-regulation. Yeah. What I've seen is like when there's judgment, you know, we are two with judgment, and it's really like, when just one, you know, chooses honor instead of judgment to go there, creates a complete new thing. And that pool of that honoring is so powerful. Yeah. Like it's like, in my experience, what I've seen is like people are like, yes. And the co-regulation is really towards like thriving and honor. Yeah. So,
I say this in my couples work. Like if you, for instance, want your partner to connect to you more and you're so angry that he isn't, you be the first person to actually connect. Because the thing is, like, you have the co-regulation. If you are actually vulnerable as a woman, your man will come with you.
Yes.
And so a lot of time when women, for instance, say like, my man is not connecting to me, I don't feel him, she is also likely not showing her true vulnerability, because when she would, the only thing he can do is open up. There's something in her vulnerability that is likely manipulative, and not saying that women are manipulative, but there's probably something in, she's trying to create something with her vulnerability. And he feels that he doesn't trust that, so he won't go with that. But when you are truly vulnerable, the only thing that he can do is go with you. Yeah.
Wow. So many parallels. You said it like, oh, there's so many things I want to say to that. And me too. And then I catch myself. It's fuck. Did I talk too much again? Did I talk too much?
No, I want to hear your thoughts.
I know you do, but I want to hear your thoughts. So let me fire back some of the questions you asked me, because I thought they were interesting. What would you like men to know about women?
That I think we live in a constant state of fear. I think women are constantly afraid, physically afraid. Wow. And I don't think men always realize how far that goes. Like we think it's normal. I always walk on the street with keys in my hand, right? It's normal to me now. So we're coming from a place where men are actually very scary. And it's not to say all men are like that. Absolutely not. But there are very scary men out there. And so that is in the nervous system of a lot of women. So if it feels like we're not opening up, or we're giving you mistrust, and this is really, I work with this on women, but realize that that's coming from a very real place. Women have had so much shit happen to them in their lives, that we normalize it, we think, but it's not, right? So as a man in front of a woman, making her feel safe is paramount. It's paramount. She needs that in every cell of her body. And that doesn't mean that you have to marry her, but it just means that in that moment, be in integrity with your word. So if you just want a one-night stand with her, say that. If you, I don't know, if you want something from her, say that, because women are really coming from such a place of unsafety. So for men to acknowledge that and to show up for that, they don't have to pay the dues of their brothers, but to just show up to that with,
Right.
okay, what can I do then to make you feel safe?
To honor that, to see that mountain, you know, it's very real. Like,
Yeah.
and it's easy for us to forget, you know. I remember thinking about this thing when I was in Rio during Carnival, and I was in the gay neighborhood in Ipanema, and everywhere was like zombies, you know. And the gay guys there, they're not like feminine, they're like buff like this, you know, and they're bigger than me and stronger. And they were coming on to me, and I'm like, you know, it was the first time that I felt that. I said, fuck, I mean, they're stronger. And I I realized, wow, this is what women go through all the time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's very easy for us to forget because it's not part of our world, you know? And I think that's a real important part to honor that world, you know, that's a very real thing for women.
Yeah, and especially also in a sexual interaction, like as a woman, you're letting somebody into your body, which is a very different experience than when you are bringing yourself into somebody's body. That's completely different. So just imagine feeling really unsafe physically and then also having to let somebody go into your body. That's really tricky. So for instance, it's very hard for women to say no during sex because a part of her will think, if I say no, he might get angry, which some men do. And then he's so close to me, he could be in me, like I'm going to be in danger.
Yes.
So to realize that that's a part of her brain will start talking to her like that. So this whole thing, like women should say no more clear. Of course they do. Of course they do. But it's very difficult because you physically are so vulnerable.
Yes.
You are so vulnerable in that moment. So if you want to, as a man, want to support a woman in that, create space, create time for her to feel into it, you know, like just slow it down a bit so she could feel like, do I want this? Yes, no. Let her just create some time. That's already so safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I want to let that sink in because I think it's we don't realize it as men how important part of daily life that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you like women to know about men? Things you've learned.
To really, really assume that they are doing good. Go live your life assuming every man means well. You'll have a totally different life.
Yes.
Like really totally different life. The moment I've gone through a few very abusive relationships, and when I completely broke apart because of the last one, in that moment I thought, but I love men. I actually love men. I love men. I don't love the toxic man because he can really hurt me, but I love the masculine. And I started thinking, okay, what is the masculine? The masculine is the part, when my friend says, don't worry, Sophie, I've got this. I love that. I need that in my life so desperately. And the moment I started recognizing that, seeking people for that, also really calling it out, saying, you know, man, it was so nice yesterday that you just cooked it and you decided and cooked dinner. It was, I needed that. You have no idea how big that was. The moment I started enforcing that around me, I had a completely different life.
Right.
Attracted different people. Like my male friends, they feel, that sounds maybe weird, but they feel useful, right? Because I'm inviting them in that space. I'm saying, I have to go to IKEA. I can't carry that shit. Do you want to help? Yeah, I do. And just receiving them, actually receiving men, not thinking it's weak when I receive them, when they help me carry shit up the stairs, actually receiving them, allowing that dynamic to happen again. And of course I can carry it myself, but it's so nice when somebody helps.
Yes.
and so, yeah, so I start treating the men around you, assuming that they are doing well, that they mean well, that they're doing good, and you'll have a completely different life.
I really loved it when you said, I love men. It's so nice to hear. It's so nice to hear.
I'm so grateful for men because it's because of men I can feel myself deeper. Because of men I can surrender. Because of men I can completely break open. Because of men I feel safe. You know, because of the masculine, like it's such a beautiful force, and I desperately need it. I long for it. I crave it. So many women do, but they are afraid to admit that they are craving somebody to take the lead or somebody to just to have the space. Like I tell women this, I'm like, let your man do the car directions, even if he's wrong. Let him do it. He can deal with the fact that he's wrong. He can deal with it. He's fine. don't take over. Let him do it.
Yes.
Let go.
But I understand the conundrum that women find themselves in, because what they really want is to find a man she could trust enough to surrender to, and there's this kind of like, it's harder to create and make that happen. But I'm so happy that you're out there saying, I love men, that you tell also that we could find a way together through honoring each other, and I see, it's, for me, it feels really good to know that there are people out there, let alone beautiful women saying the same kind of message, and it's really, it warms my heart and really spurs me on, inspires me. So very grateful for your work. Very grateful for your work.
Same to you. Same to you. Yeah. Honoring.
If people that are interested in listening to this, where can they find you?
So there is my Instagram, where I'm most active on, Sophie Josephina, both with an S and PH. There's my website, sophiejosephina.com. I work with both men and women. So I currently have a container for men called The Initiation, and I'm about to reopen my container for women called Healing the Masculine.
Great. And you're in Amsterdam, right?
I'm in Amsterdam, yes.
And most of your work is online? You do live events also?
Right now, everything's online. Now that the world is changing and opening up a bit again in Europe, I'm not sure. I might do some live things. Yeah.
Well, it's great. I'm very happy you were here and that I got to listen a bit more.
I'm so happy for this.
Dive a bit deeper. And I got plans for Europe in the next couple of months. So maybe we go and have a coffee in Amsterdam on a terrace.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I would love that. I would love that. Yes, come.
Let's talk soon, Sophie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.